A waitress spilled champagne on the wrong man. They dumped trash on a Filipino maid for TikTok views. They filmed her crying, edited it with laughing emojis, and posted it for 2 million followers. What they didn't know, she was the long-lost daughter of Marco DeLuca, the man who controlled half the underground networks in North America. And Marco DeLuca had been searching for her for 23 years. The views would come, but not the way they expected. Because when you humiliate a mafia boss's daughter, the entire world watches you pay. Amara Rivera wiped down the marble countertop for the third time that morning, her reflection staring back at her from the polished surface. The penthouse apartment stretched out behind her like something from a magazine. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Central Park, furniture that cost more than she'd make in 5 years, art on the walls that she'd been specifically instructed never to touch, not even to dust. She didn't belong here, not really. But when the agency called 6 months ago saying a wealthy family needed live-in help, Amara had said yes. She always said yes. The pay was good. $800 a week, room and board included. Enough to send money back to Manila, to her younger brother Miguel and sister Sofia. Enough to save for nursing school. Just 2 more years. 2 more years of being invisible, and then real life could begin. Amara glanced at the clock. 6:47 a.m. The Whitmores would be awake soon. Chelsea first, always Chelsea first, yelling for her green smoothie before her eyes were fully open. Then Madison, gentler, but just as demanding in her own way. Their parents, Richard and Patricia, were in the Hamptons this week. They were always somewhere else. Her phone buzzed, a text from Miguel. "Ate, the school is asking for fees again. Can you send extra this month?" Amara's chest tightened. She'd already sent everything she could spare, but what was she supposed to say? No? Tell her 15-year-old brother to drop out? She typed back, "I'll figure it out. Study hard." The bedroom door down the hall slammed open. "Amara! Amara! Oh my God, where is she?" Chelsea's voice cut through the apartment like a knife through silk. Amara straightened her uniform, the simple black dress with white collar that Chelsea had bought for her. "I'm wearing Prada, and you're wearing that," Chelsea had said when she'd presented it. "We need the aesthetic difference clear." Amara hadn't pointed out that the uniform itself probably cost more than everything in her small room combined. She hurried toward Chelsea's bedroom, her worn slippers silent on the marble floor. Chelsea Whitmore stood in the doorway, 22 years old and stunning in the way that money makes people stunning. Perfect highlights, perfect skin, perfect teeth. Her phone was already in her hand, already recording, always recording. "There you are," Chelsea said, not looking at Amara's face. She never looked at Amara's face. "I need my green smoothie. With the organic kale, not the regular kind. And make sure the almond milk is fresh. Last time it tasted weird." "Yes, Miss Chelsea." Amara kept her voice neutral. 3 years in America had taught her that much. Never show emotion, never react. Just smile and nod and be grateful. "And Amara?" Chelsea was scrolling through her phone now, thumb moving rapidly. "We're having people over tonight. I need you to deep clean the living room and stay in your quarters after 7. We don't need you wandering around when we're filming content." Amara nodded, already heading toward the kitchen. Behind her she heard Madison's door open. "Chels, did you see this?" Madison's voice was excited. "This prank video has 12 million views. 12 million. They dumped a whole trash can on someone, and it's like everywhere." Amara's hands trembled slightly as she pulled kale from the refrigerator. She'd learned to tune out their conversations, to exist in the spaces between their words. But something about Madison's tone made her stomach twist. The blender roared to life, drowning out whatever Chelsea said in response. 3 hours later, Amara was on her knees in the guest bathroom, scrubbing grout with a toothbrush because Chelsea had decided the cleaning company wasn't thorough enough. Her back ached. The blister on her heel from yesterday had opened up again. The smell of bleach made her eyes water. Her phone buzzed. Sophia this time. "Ate, I got accepted to the good high school, but they need uniforms and supplies." Amara sat back on her heels, staring at the message. Pride warred with panic. Her sister was brilliant, deserved every opportunity. But the costs never stopped. The needs never stopped. She heard laughter from the living room. Chelsea and Madison were home from their afternoon shopping trip. Amara could hear other voices too. Friends. Their friends were always loud, always confident, always talking about places and things that existed in a different universe. Amara, Chelsea's voice, come here. Amara pulled off her rubber gloves, straightened her uniform, and walked into the living room. 6 young women were sprawled across the furniture, shopping bags scattered everywhere. Designer logos screamed from every surface. One of them was filming on her phone. Yes, Miss Chelsea? Put these away. Chelsea gestured vaguely at the bags without looking up from her own phone. And bring us champagne. The Veuve Clicquot. Make sure the glasses are chilled. Amara gathered the bags, careful not to wrinkle anything. She could feel them watching her, or rather, not watching her, talking around her like she was furniture. She'd gotten used to it. The invisibility. Sometimes it was easier this way. In the kitchen, she arranged champagne flutes on a silver tray, placed them in the freezer for exactly 3 minutes like Chelsea preferred, then retrieved the champagne from the wine fridge. The bottle was cold in her hands, condensation beating on the glass. She could hear them talking as she approached with the tray. I'm telling you, we need to do something big, Chelsea was saying. My engagement is down 15% this month. I need something viral. That trash dump video is still trending, one of the friends said. Maybe we could do our own version. Amara's foot caught on the edge of the rug. She stumbled, the tray tilting dangerously, but she caught herself. Her heart hammered. Behind her, someone laughed. Careful, Amara, Madison said. That champagne costs more than your monthly salary. Amara set the tray down carefully on the coffee table, began opening the bottle. Wait. Chelsea's voice was thoughtful. She was looking at her phone, then at Amara, then back at her phone. Something in her expression made Amara's skin prickle. Madison, are you thinking what I'm thinking? Madison's eyes widened. Chelsea, I don't know. It's perfect. It's literally perfect. Chelsea was sitting up now, animated. We have everything we need right here. Amara poured champagne into the first glass, trying to ignore the tone in Chelsea's voice. That excitement. She'd heard it before, usually right before something uncomfortable happened, like the time Chelsea made her dance to a trending song for a video, or when Madison had filmed her eating breakfast, zooming in on her rice and dried fish with exaggerated disgust. Amara, wait here, Chelsea said, standing up. Don't move! The group dissolved into whispers and giggles. Amara stood frozen, holding the champagne bottle, watching them huddle around Chelsea's phone. Every instinct screamed at her to leave, to disappear into the kitchen, but Chelsea had said, wait. So she waited. Chelsea and Madison disappeared into Chelsea's room. Amara heard drawers opening, things being moved around. The other girls were setting up phones on various surfaces, angling them, checking frames. This is going to break the internet, one of them said. Amara's mouth went dry. The sisters emerged carrying a large black trash bag. It bulged with contents. Amara could smell it from across the room. Coffee grounds, rotting fruit, something sour and spoiled. Okay, everyone recording? Chelsea's voice was bright, performative. Her influencer voice, the one she used when she was playing to an audience. Amara, come stand right here. Amara's feet moved automatically. Years of obedience, of not questioning, of keeping her job because she needed it desperately. She stood where Chelsea pointed between 2 phones, perfectly framed. Miss Chelsea, what? Shh. Chelsea held up a finger. This'll just take a second. It's for content. You want to help me, right, Amara? You want to be helpful? Amara nodded slowly, unease crawling up her spine. Great. Chelsea lifted the trash bag. Madison lifted her phone higher, zooming in. This is for all my followers who asked for trash content. Well, here's the trash. The bag tipped. Everything happened in slow motion, garbage cascading down, hitting Amara's head, her shoulders, her uniform. Coffee grounds matted in her hair, something wet and putrid sliding down her face, the smell overwhelming, choking. Pieces of rotting fruit, tissues, makeup wipes, food scraps, all of it covering her in a wave of humiliation. Amara gasped, frozen in shock. She couldn't move, couldn't breathe, couldn't process what was happening. Laughter exploded around her. Not gentle laughter, cruel laughter, the kind that strips away humanity. Oh my God, her face! One of the friends was doubled over. This is gold! This is absolute gold! Madison was circling, capturing every angle. Chelsea was in front of her now, phone out, recording a selfie with Amara in the background. It's giving garbage person. Hashtag help, hashtag prank, hashtag comedy. She turned to Amara, grinning wide. Come on, Amara, smile. Don't you know how to take a joke? God, you people are so serious. Amara's hands came up slowly, trying to wipe her face, trying to clear her eyes. The trash was everywhere, in her hair, down her dress, on her skin. But worse than the physical filth was the sound of their laughter, the way they looked at her. Like she wasn't human, like she was part of the trash itself. Please, Amara heard herself whisper. Her voice came out small, broken. Please, why? Because it's funny, Chelsea said simply. She was already typing on her phone, adding filters, adding music. Don't be so dramatic. We'll get you a new uniform. Amara dropped to her knees, not to clean, not to fix anything, just because her legs wouldn't hold her anymore. The garbage she'd landed in squelched beneath her. Tears burned in her eyes, but she couldn't tell if they were from the chemicals in the trash or the breaking inside her chest. One of the friends took a close-up photo. The flash blinded Amara for a moment. Should we make her clean it up for part 2? Madison asked, still filming. But Amara wasn't listening anymore. She was somewhere else, somewhere beyond the humiliation, beyond the laughter, beyond the apartment where she'd worked for 6 months, invisible and now utterly exposed. She thought of her mother, the woman in the photo she kept by her bed, the one with Mama written on the back in handwriting she didn't recognize, the woman who'd loved her before she died, before Amara ended up in the orphanage, before she learned that some people would always see her as less. The phones kept recording. The laughter kept coming. And Amara Rivera learned exactly what she was worth to the people whose homes she'd kept spotless, whose meals she'd cooked, whose lives she'd served. Nothing. She was worth nothing at all. Chelsea Whitmore had been editing videos since she was 16. She knew what went viral: shock value, trend participation, and perfect timing. This video had all three. She sat at her vanity, laptop open, phone propped beside it, displaying the raw footage from 6 different angles. Madison perched on the bed behind her, watching over her shoulder. Their friends had left an hour ago, still giggling about the prank. Amara had disappeared into her room and hadn't come out. Okay, so we start with the wide shot, Chelsea narrated, dragging clips into her timeline. Then cut to her face right when the trash hits. That's the money shot. Should we blur her face? Madison asked quietly. Obviously, we're not monsters. Chelsea added a blur effect, just enough to obscure features, but not enough to hide the emotion, the shock, the tears, the breaking. See? Ethical content creation. She layered in the trending audio, a upbeat pop song that contrasted perfectly with the imagery, added floating emoji effects, crying laughing faces, a trash can icon, sparkles, the word oops in bouncy letters. The caption took 10 minutes to perfect, POV, when your help takes life way too seriously. We love Amara, but she needs to learn to laugh. Bari prank, we're funny, bari help, bari domestic comedy, bari viral, bari 5B. For you, bari trending, what do you think? Chelsea turned the laptop so Madison could see the full edit. Madison watched the 47-second video loop twice. Something uncomfortable flickered across her face. It'll definitely get views. That's what I'm saying. Chelsea's finger hovered over the post button. This is exactly what my engagement needs. But Chels, she was really upset. She's fine. She's probably already over it. These people, they're used to hard work and stuff. We're soft compared to what they deal with back home. Chelsea clicked post before she could second-guess herself. Watch, this'll blow up. The video went live at 8:47 p.m. By 9 p.m., it had 1,000 views. By 9:30 p.m., 10,000 views and climbing. Chelsea refreshed obsessively, watching the numbers tick upward. Comments flooded in. This is hilarious, OMG. Why is she so dramatic? LOL, I'm dead. This is too funny. See? Chelsea showed Madison the metrics. Told you, people love this kind of content. By 10 p.m., the video had 50,000 views. Chelsea was already planning her next post, riding this wave of attention. Her phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Notifications, comments, shares. By 10:30 p.m., everything changed. The first critical comment appeared, upvoted rapidly to the top. This isn't funny. This is abuse of a domestic worker. This is real discrimination that Filipino workers face every day. Delete this. Chelsea laughed it off. There's always someone offended. Ignore it. But more came. Dozens, then hundreds. You're disgusting. This woman works for you and you humiliate her? This is modern slavery behavior. Report this video. White rich girls bullying a POC worker. Tale as old as time. I'm Filipino, and my mother works as a domestic worker. This made me sick. The video had 200,000 views now, but the comment section was no longer laughing with her. They were angry at her. Chels, Madison's voice was small. Maybe we should delete it. No way, it's trending. Any publicity is good publicity. But Chelsea's hands were shaking as she typed a response. It was just a joke. Amara knows we were kidding. Chill out, people. The response made it worse. By 11 p.m., the video had 500,000 views, but now other TikTokers were stitching it, adding commentary. Chelsea watched in growing horror as video after video appeared, each more damning than the last. A Filipino creator with 3 million followers posted a tearful response. This is what my mother endures. This is why she cries on the phone, because people like this think we're trash. A labor rights activist with 2 million followers. Let me explain why this violates every dignity standard for domestic workers. A news anchor with 5 million followers. This video shows exactly why we need stronger protections for immigrant workers. Oh my God, Madison whispered. Chels, it's on the news, like actual news. Chelsea's phone rang, her mother. Chelsea Marie Whitmore, what the hell is this video I'm seeing? Patricia's voice was shrill with panic. Someone just sent it to your father. Do you have any idea what this looks like? Our family name? Mom, it was just a prank. Everyone's overreacting. Delete it. Delete it right now and get a lawyer on the phone. Jesus Christ, Chelsea. The call ended abruptly. Chelsea stared at her phone. The video had 800,000 views. Her follower count was dropping. 2.1 million, 2.0 million, 1.95 million. People were unfollowing in real time. What do we do? Madison was crying now. Chelsea's hands shook as she typed another comment. Okay, I'm sorry if this offended anyone. It wasn't meant to hurt anyone's feelings. Amara and I are cool, I promise. The comments exploded. If this offended anyone. Girl, you dumped trash on a human being. Your apology is worse than the video. Where is Amara? Let her tell us if you're cool. By midnight, the video had 2 million views. News outlets were picking it up. Articles appearing, influencer under fire for abusing domestic worker. Rich Manhattan sisters caught on camera degrading Filipino maid. Viral video sparks outrage over treatment of immigrant workers. Chelsea's hands were shaking so badly she could barely hold her phone. Brand partnership emails were coming in, every single one a cancellation. Due to the recent video, we're terminating our partnership agreement effective immediately. $50,000 in deals. Gone. Madison was curled on the bed, phone dark. Mom and Dad are coming home. They're driving back tonight. It's going to be fine, Chelsea said, but her voice cracked. This will blow over. Everything blows over. But she knew, somewhere deep in her chest, that this was different. This wouldn't blow over. Because Amara hadn't just been a prop in her content. Amara was a real person, and the entire internet had just watched Chelsea treat her like garbage, literally. Meanwhile, in her small room off the kitchen, Amara sat on her narrow bed, door locked, trash still in her hair. She'd tried to shower 3 times, but the smell wouldn't leave. Or maybe it was just in her head now, mixed with the shame, the humiliation, the breaking of something inside her that she didn't know how to fix. Her phone buzzed, messages from numbers she didn't recognize. Is this the maid from the video? You deserve better than this. Please press charges. We can help you. Someone had found her Facebook, her private Facebook, with photos of her family, her life before America. They were sharing it. This is Amara Rivera. This is the woman Chelsea Whitmore abused. Amara's hands trembled as she scrolled. The video was everywhere, on every platform, millions of people watching the worst moment of her life over and over again. Her face was blurred, but people were finding her anyway, finding her family. A message from Miguel. 8. Someone sent us a video. Are you okay? What happened? Please tell me you're okay. She couldn't respond. What was she supposed to say? That she'd been treated like garbage because she was poor, because she was foreign, because she was invisible until she was useful. Another message, this one from a Filipino community group. Amara, we want to help. We have lawyers. You don't have to face this alone. But Amara felt utterly alone. In a city of 8 million people, in an apartment with 2 other women, she had never felt more isolated in her life. She stared at the photo on her nightstand, the woman labeled Mama, the only thing she had from before the orphanage, the only connection to whoever she'd been before she became Amara Rivera, the girl nobody wanted, the woman nobody saw. "I'm not garbage," she whispered in Tagalog. "I am not garbage." But the smell lingered, the memory lingered, the laughter lingered. And Amara Rivera, 23 years old, 8,000 miles from the country that had never really been home, working in a city that had never seen her as human, finally broke. Upstate New York. The same night, Marco De Luca sat in his study, cigar smoke curling toward the coffered ceiling, watching as Lieutenant Carlo shift uncomfortably in the leather chair across from him. "Boss, this might be nothing, but..." Carlo held out his tablet. "This video's going viral. Normally I wouldn't bother you with internet drama, but something about it." Marco barely glanced at the screen. "I don't have time for..." He stopped. The video played. A young woman, face blurred but posture visible, trash dumping over her head, her hands coming up, a specific gesture, touching her neck when distressed, fingers splayed in a particular way. Marco's cigar fell from his hand. "Rewind it!" Carlo rewound, played it again. Marco stood abruptly, his chair scraping back. "Get me everything on this girl. Everything. Name, location, employer, immigration records. I want it in 1 hour." "Sir?" 1 hour, Carlo, not 1 minute later." Carlo left quickly. He'd worked for Marco De Luca for 15 years. He'd never seen that look on his boss's face before, like a ghost had walked through the wall. Marco moved to his desk, opened the bottom drawer that he kept locked always. Inside, a file folder, yellow with age. Inside that, photos. Manila, 23 years ago. A different Marco, younger, softer. A Filipino woman beside him, beautiful and kind. A baby in her arms. Isabella, his wife, his daughter, both killed in the explosion that destroyed his old life. That's what he'd been told. That's what he'd believed for 23 years. But that gesture, that specific gesture Isabella used to make when she was nervous or scared, touching her neck, fingers splayed just so. And in that split second when the video zoomed in, before the blur, he'd seen it. A birthmark, just above the collarbone, shaped like a star. His daughter had been born with that birthmark. Marco's hands shook as he held the photo up to the light, the baby in Isabella's arms, her tiny hand visible, reaching up, the same gesture. "Isabella," he whispered, "did you survive? Did she survive?" 53 minutes later, Carlo returned. "Boss, her name is Amara Rivera, 23 years old. Came to the U.S. 4 years ago from Manila, working as a live-in maid for the Whitmore family on the Upper East Side. Immigration records show she was raised in St. Catherine's Orphanage in Manila, registered as an abandoned infant, approximately 6 months old." "Date she was registered?" Carlo checked his tablet. "March 15th, 2002. Marco's breath caught, 3 weeks after the explosion, 3 weeks after he'd been told his family was dead. "Orphanage records?" "Minimal. She was found at a Manila hospital with a woman who died shortly after arrival. The woman had no ID. The baby had a photo pinned to her blanket with one word written on it: Mama." Marco sank into his chair, his vision blurred. 23 years. 23 years of believing his daughter was dead, of building an empire on rage and loss, of becoming someone Isabella would have hated. And all along, she'd been alive, alone, in an orphanage, now working as a maid, being treated like... He watched the video again, watched someone dump trash on his daughter, watched the Whitmore sisters laugh, watched his little girl break. The cigar smoke cleared. Marco's expression hardened. He'd spent 23 years as a criminal. He'd done terrible things, hurt people, destroyed lives, all because he thought he had nothing left to lose. But now he had everything. He had his daughter, and someone had just made the worst mistake of their lives. "Carlo, get the cars, all of them." "Sir?" Marco's voice was quiet, deadly quiet. The Whitmore family just hurt my daughter, and they filmed it for entertainment. He stood, buttoning his suit jacket. His father's signet ring caught the light. They wanted viral content? Marco's smile was cold. Let's give them something viral. He walked toward the door, then paused, turned back to the photo of Isabella and baby Amara. I'm coming, Mia Figlia, he whispered. Papa's coming. Amara was still sitting on her bed, trash-stained uniform crumpled, in the corner when the doorbell rang. Not the intercom, the actual door, which meant security had let someone up without calling first. That never happened. She heard Chelsea's footsteps in the hallway. Amara, get the door! God, do I have to do everything myself? Amara's body moved on autopilot. 6 months of conditioning. Stand when called. Move when ordered. Be invisible until needed. She unlocked her door, stepped into the hallway, her hair still damp from her 4th shower, wearing the only other clothes she owned, faded jeans and a Manila University t-shirt her brother had sent her. The doorbell rang again, insistent, patient, like whoever was on the other side had all the time in the world and absolutely no doubt they'd be let in eventually. Amara's hand shook as she turned the deadbolt, pulled open the heavy door, and her world tilted on its axis. 5 men in black suits stood in the hallway, not security guards, something else, something that made every instinct in her body scream danger and safety at the same time. They parted like water, and through them walked a man who made the air feel heavier just by existing. Marco De Luca was 51 years old, silver threading through dark hair, a scar across his left hand that disappeared into his Italian wool sleeve. His eyes were dark, not black, but the kind of brown that looked black until you were close enough to see the gold flecks. He wore his power like a second skin, quiet and absolute. Those eyes locked on Amara and something in them broke open. Amara Rivera? His voice was rough, accented, like he was asking a question he already knew the answer to but needed to hear out loud anyway. Amara's throat closed. She nodded, unable to speak. Why did this man look at her like he knew her, like he'd been looking for her his entire life? My name is Marco De Luca. He took 1 step forward. Amara took 1 step back. He stopped immediately, reading her fear. I believe. Dio mio, I know. I'm your father. The words hung in the air between them. Impossible words. Amara's mouth opened, but no sound came out. Behind her, Chelsea's voice cut through the moment like glass breaking. Amara, who the hell is... She appeared in the hallway and froze. Every drop of blood drained from her face. Oh my God! Madison emerged behind her sister, took 1 look at the men in suits, at Marco, and grabbed Chelsea's arm. Chels, she whispered. That's Marco De Luca. That's... Oh my God, Chels, what did we do? Marco's gaze shifted to them. Just shifted. He didn't move, didn't speak, but the temperature in the apartment dropped 10 degrees. You must be the Whitmore sisters. His voice was conversational, pleasant even, which somehow made it more terrifying. He pulled out his phone with his scarred hand, held it up. The TikTok video played, sound off, the image of trash cascading over Amara's head frozen on the screen. I believe you know my daughter quite well. We didn't, Chelsea's voice cracked. We didn't know she was... We thought she was just... Just what? Marco's voice never rose. Just a maid. Just a Filipino worker? Just someone you could humiliate for entertainment? Amara's head was spinning. Father. This man was claiming to be her father. But her father was dead. Her mother was dead. She was an orphan. That's what the sisters at St. Catherine's had told her. That's what she'd believed for 23 years. I don't understand, Amara heard herself say. You can't be... I don't have a father. Marco turned back to her and the hardness in his face softened. He reached slowly into his jacket pocket, pulled out a photograph, yellowed with age, held it out to her with shaking hands. Amara took it, stared. A young man and a Filipino woman. The woman was beautiful, laughing at the camera, holding a baby in her arms. And on the back in handwriting Amara would recognize anywhere. 1 word. Mama. It was the same photo. The exact same photo she kept in her room. But this one had more. Had the father. Had the date, January 2002. Isabella, Marco said softly. Your mother was Isabella Rivera, my wife. We were attacked when you were 6 months old. I thought they told me you both died. But she protected you. She survived long enough to get you to a hospital before." His voice broke. "She saved you. And I never knew." Amara's hands were trembling so hard, the photo blurred. She looked up at this man, this stranger, and saw her own eyes looking back, the same shape, the same gold flecks in the brown. "How did you find me?" "The video." Marco's jaw tightened. "You touch your neck when you're scared. 3 fingers, just so. Your mother did the same thing. And your birthmark." He gestured to his own collarbone. "A star, yes? Just here?" Amara's hand flew to her neck, to the birthmark she'd had her whole life, the one the other girls at the orphanage used to tease her about. "How could you possibly—" "Because I was there the day you were born, Mia Figlia. I held you. I counted your fingers and toes. I memorized every detail because you were my miracle." Tears tracked down his face, this man who looked like he'd never cried in his life. "And then I lost you. And I've been looking for you every single day since." The apartment was silent except for the sound of Amara's breathing, fast and shallow. This couldn't be real. Things like this didn't happen. Fathers didn't just appear out of nowhere. Orphans didn't suddenly get families. But the photo in her hands was real. The matching birthmark was real. The way this man looked at her, like she was the only thing in the world that mattered, that felt real too. "I need," Amara's voice was barely a whisper, "I need time to process, to understand. This is—" "Of course." Marco stepped back immediately. "Take all the time you need. I'll give you my number. We can meet anywhere you want, anywhere you feel safe. But first," he turned back to Chelsea and Madison, and the gentleness evaporated. "We're going to discuss what happened to my daughter in your care." Chelsea was crying now, makeup running down her face. "Mr. DeLuca, we're so sorry. We didn't know. If you'd known she had a powerful father, you would have treated her like a human being." Marco's voice was quiet, deadly. "But because you thought she was alone, unprotected, just a poor immigrant worker, you thought you could humiliate her? Film it? Laugh about it?" Madison was shaking. "We made a mistake, a huge mistake. We're so sorry, Amara. We're so sorry." Amara looked at them, really looked at them for the first time since she'd started working here. Saw them not as her employers, but as what they really were. 2 young women who'd been raised to see people like her as less than. Who'd never been taught that dignity wasn't something you earned through wealth or citizenship or the right passport. Who genuinely believed that what they did was just a joke, because the person they did it to didn't matter. "You're not sorry you did it," Amara said, her voice stronger now. "You're sorry you got caught. You're sorry he walked through that door." She gestured at Marco. "If I was still just Amara the maid, would you be apologizing?" Silence answered her. "That's what I thought." Marco moved to stand beside Amara, not in front of her, not taking over, but beside her. "What do you want, Amara? This is your choice. I can make them disappear, not kill," he added quickly, seeing her expression. "But ruin, destroy, make them understand pain? I can do that, easily." Amara thought about the trash in her hair, the laughter, the 6 months of small cruelties, the years before that, in other houses, with other employers who'd treated her the same way, the invisibility, the erasure of her humanity, piece by piece, day by day, until she'd almost believed it herself. But she also thought about her mother, the woman in the photo who died saving her, about dignity, about the difference between justice and revenge. "I want them to understand," she said finally, "really understand. Not because they are afraid of you, Papa." The word slipped out, felt strange and right on her tongue, but because they actually see what they did wrong. Marco's expression shifted. Pride flickered across his face. "Your mother would have said the same thing." He turned to Chelsea and Madison. "You will each spend 1 month working as domestic workers, real work, minimum wage, no money from your parents, no phones except for safety, no social media. You will learn what my daughter's life has been." "And if we refuse?" Chelsea's voice was tiny. "Then I stop being my daughter's father for a moment and go back to being Marco DeLuca. And you learn what that means." He paused. "Your choice." "We'll do it," Madison said quickly. "Whatever you want, Whatever Amara wants. Marco looked at Amara. Is this acceptable to you? Amara nodded slowly. It wasn't enough. Nothing would ever be enough, but it was a start. Then we have an agreement. Marco pulled out a card, handed it to Amara. My number. Call me, anytime, day or night. You're not alone anymore, mia figlia. You'll never be alone again, he signaled to his men. They moved toward the door, a choreographed unit. But at the threshold, Marco paused, looked back at Chelsea and Madison one final time. The video has 5 million views now, he said conversationally. The whole world knows what you did. But what they don't know yet is who she really is, who her family is. He smiled, and it was terrifying. Tomorrow they will, and then you'll understand exactly what it means to humiliate a DeLuca. The door closed behind them with a soft click. Amara stood in the hallway of the apartment that had been her prison for 6 months, holding a phone number and a photograph in the sudden overwhelming knowledge that her entire life had just changed in the space of 15 minutes. She had a father, a family, a history. She wasn't alone anymore, and the 2 women who'd treated her like garbage were about to learn what it meant to cross the wrong person. The press conference happened the next morning at 10 a.m. sharp. Marco hadn't asked Amara if she was ready. He'd simply called at 7 a.m. and said, "It's time to take your life back." Now, Amara sat at a table in the grand ballroom of the Plaza Hotel, cameras everywhere, reporters packed shoulder to shoulder, and Marco beside her, solid, real. Her father. She wore a dress he'd sent over, simple, elegant, black. Not a uniform, not something to make her invisible, something that said, "Look at me, see me. I matter." Marco stood first. The room fell silent. My name is Marco DeLuca. 23 years ago, I lost my wife and daughter in Manila. I was told they were dead. I built my life on that loss. And yesterday, I discovered my daughter survived. She's been alive this entire time, working, struggling, sending money to her siblings in the Philippines, trying to build a future from nothing. He paused, let that sink in. Her name is Amara Rivera DeLuca, and 3 days ago, her employers, the Whitmore sisters of Manhattan, dumped garbage on her head and filmed it for TikTok entertainment because they thought she was nobody. They thought she was alone. They thought she didn't matter. Cameras flashed. Reporters scribbled frantically. They were wrong. Amara took a shaky breath and stood. Marco squeezed her hand once, then stepped back. This was her moment. "I'm not here for sympathy," she said, her accent thick but her voice clear. "I'm here because I represent millions. Domestic workers, immigrants, people who clean your homes and raise your children and cook your food, and you never see them. You never learn their names. You never ask about their dreams." She pulled out her phone, played the video. The whole room watched in silence, watched the trash fall, watched her break. Some reporters looked away. This happened to me. But it happens every day. Different forms, same message. You don't matter. You're not human. You're just help. Amara's voice hardened. "I'm announcing today the creation of the Isabella Rivera Foundation, named for my mother, funded by my father, dedicated to protecting domestic workers, providing legal aid, and ensuring that no one else has to experience what I did." The room erupted with questions. Amara answered them all. What would the foundation do? Where would it operate? What about the Whitmores? "The Whitmore sisters will spend the next month working as domestic workers themselves," Amara said. "Minimum wage, no privileges, learning what life is like for the people they treated as furniture." "And after that?" a reporter called out. "After that?" Amara looked directly into the camera. "After that, we'll see if they learned anything, if they can rebuild themselves into better people. Because that's what my mother would have wanted, not revenge. Growth," Marco added quietly. "But make no mistake, anyone who harms my daughter again will not receive such mercy." The threat hung in the air, gentle and absolute. Chelsea Whitmore's first day as a domestic worker started at 5 a.m. Mrs. Rosa Rivera, no relation to Amara, but one of Marco's business associates who ran a legitimate restaurant chain, picked her up in a van with 5 other workers, all Filipino, all women who'd done this work for years. "Phone," Mrs. Rivera said, hand out. Chelsea hesitated, then handed over her iPhone, her lifeline, her identity, Her remaining 1.1 million followers who she'd posted a tearful apology to last night. You get it back after shift. Safety only. The restaurant kitchen was already hot at 6 a.m., industrial stoves blazing, dishes piled high from the night shift that hadn't been finished. You start there, Mrs. Rivera pointed to the dish pit. Everything gets cleaned, sanitized, restacked. When that's done, you prep vegetables. When that's done, you deep clean the grease traps. When that's done, there's always more. Chelsea stared at the mountain of dishes, crusted with food, smelling of old oil and decay. Her stomach turned. Where do I even... You start, Mrs. Rivera said simply. Like everyone starts. By doing the work. The other women were already moving, fast and efficient, a choreographed dance of labor Chelsea had never noticed in her life. One of them, a woman named Grace, showed her how to scrape plates, load the industrial washer, stack without breaking. You'll get blisters, Grace said. Everyone does. Push through. By hour 3, Chelsea's hands were raw. The hot water and harsh soap had stripped her manicure, left her skin red and burning. Her back ached from standing. Her feet throbbed in the non-slip shoes Mrs. Rivera had provided. Break, Mrs. Rivera announced at 9 a.m. Chelsea collapsed into a chair in the break room. The other women pulled out packed lunches, rice, dried fish, vegetables in Tupperware containers. One of them offered Chelsea a sauté-in container. You didn't bring food? Chelsea shook her head. She hadn't thought about it. Food just appeared in her life. Always had. Here, Grace split her lunch. Can't work hungry. Chelsea took the food, hands trembling. Thank you. We take care of each other, Grace said, because no one else will. The break lasted 15 minutes, then back to work. Vegetables next, hundreds of onions to peel and dice. Chelsea's eyes burned, tears streaming down her face, but she couldn't stop, couldn't slow down. The kitchen moved at a relentless pace and she was the weakest link, the one holding everyone back. Faster, the head chef barked. Lunch rush starts in an hour. You think customers wait because you're slow? By 2 p.m., Chelsea had worked 9 hours. Every muscle screamed, but Mrs. Rivera pointed to the grease traps. Time to clean. The smell hit Chelsea like a physical wall. Rancid oil, rotting food, grease congealed into a solid mass. She gagged, ran to the bathroom, threw up. When she came back, Grace was already starting the job. I can't, Chelsea whispered. I can't do this. Grace looked at her, really looked at her. You think we can? You think this is easy for us? Fun? She shook her head. We do it because we have to, because we have families to feed, because there's no choice. You have a choice, Grace continued, her voice not unkind but firm. You can walk away, go back to your life, but we can't. This is our life, every single day. Chelsea thought about walking away, getting her phone, calling her parents, quitting. Then she thought about Amara on her knees, covered in trash, and everyone laughing. She put on the rubber gloves, she cleaned the grease trap. Week 2, Chelsea stopped crying in the bathroom. Week 3, her hands developed calluses. Week 4, she learned all the women's names, their stories, their dreams. Rosa sent money to her daughter in Manila, hadn't seen her in 4 years. Grace was a teacher back home. Here, she washed dishes. Linda had a law degree. She cleaned hotel rooms, each woman whole, complex, human. Chelsea had never known. On the final day, Mrs. Rivera called her to the office. You've changed, she said. It wasn't a question. Not enough, Chelsea replied. Never enough. Mrs. Rivera handed her a check. 1 month's wages, $2,400 before taxes, $1,847 after. Chelsea stared at it. She used to spend more than that on a single shopping trip. This was a month of her life, a month of pain and exhaustion and learning. What will you do now? Mrs. Rivera asked. Make it right, Chelsea said. Somehow, keep making it right for the rest of my life. Madison's month was different but similar. She worked in elder care, helping elderly Filipino immigrants, changing bedpans, feeding those who couldn't feed themselves, listening to stories of coming to America and being invisible. Both sisters emerged transformed, not redeemed, not forgiven, but changed. The video now had 15 million views, but new videos had emerged. Amara's press conference. Chelsea and Madison's month of work. filmed by the foundations, a counter-narrative taking shape. Dignity for domestic workers trended worldwide. 3 states passed new worker protection laws. The Isabella Rivera Foundation received $50 million in donations in the first month. And Amara Rivera de Luca, who'd been invisible for 23 years, became the most visible advocate for the voiceless in America. Her father watched with pride as his daughter became someone her mother would have loved. And the Whitmore sisters learned that some lessons come at a cost, that redemption isn't given, it's earned, that seeing people as human is not kindness, it's the bare minimum, and they spent every day after trying to meet it. 6 months had passed since the press conference, 6 months since Amara's face had been plastered across every news outlet in America. 6 months since the Isabella Rivera Foundation opened its doors in a renovated brownstone in Queens, the heart of New York's Filipino community. Amara sat in her office on the 3rd floor, nursing textbooks spread across her desk beside foundation paperwork. She'd kept her promise to herself, enrolled in the accelerated nursing program at Columbia. Mornings she studied, afternoons she ran the foundation, evenings she worked volunteer shifts at Mount Sinai, learning to heal in ways that had nothing to do with revenge. Her phone buzzed. Marco. He called every day at 2 p.m. like clockwork. "Ciao, Papa," she answered, the Italian word still feeling new on her tongue. 6 months, and she was still learning to have a father. "Mia figlia. How are you?" His voice was warm, but she could hear something underneath. Tension. Marco always had tension now, like he was constantly torn between 2 versions of himself, the father and the monster. "Tired, good tired, though. We placed 15 workers in new positions this week. 3 of them escaped abusive situations." She paused. "We're making a difference." "Your mother would be so proud," Marco's voice caught. It always did when he talked about Isabella. "I'm proud. Every day you amaze me." "Papa, what's wrong?" Amara had learned to read his silences, a long exhale. "Nothing you need to worry about. Papa, just business. The transition is harder than I expected." He meant the transition from criminal enterprise to legitimate business. Marco had promised her he'd change, slowly move away from the darker parts of his empire. But old habits died hard. Old enemies died harder. "You promised me," Amara said softly. "I know, and I'm keeping that promise. But Amara, you have to understand, some things can't be undone overnight. I have obligations, people who depend on me, enemies who would see any weakness as an opportunity." Amara closed her eyes. This was the complication she lived with daily. She loved her father, but she also knew what he was capable of, what he'd done, what he might still do. "Just keep the promise, please." "I will. For you, I will." He paused. "Are you still going to dinner tonight?" "Yes." Amara's stomach tightened. "Chelsea invited me, again." "You don't have to go." "I know, but maybe I need to." Amara stared out the window at the Queen's skyline. "She's been trying, Papa, really trying. And I think part of healing is seeing if people can actually change. Some people don't deserve your compassion, Tesoro. Maybe not, but Mama would have given it anyway, wouldn't she?" Silence. Then, "Yes, she would have. She was better than both of us." A beat. "Be careful, take Carlo with you." "I don't need a bodyguard to have dinner. Humor your old father." Amara smiled despite herself. "Fine, but he stays outside." After they hung up, Amara sat in the quiet of her office. Photos lined the walls now, her mother, young and beautiful, holding baby Amara, Marco and Isabella on their wedding day, the foundation's first clients, workers they'd helped, faces, names, stories. She wasn't invisible anymore. Sometimes she missed it, the anonymity, the simplicity of just being a person nobody noticed. Now she was Amara de Luca, the Mafia princess turned activist. Every move watched, every decision analyzed. Her phone buzzed again, a text from Chelsea. "Still on for 7? No pressure if you changed your mind. I understand." Amara typed back, "I'll be there." The restaurant was small, Italian, in the West Village. Chelsea had chosen it carefully, not fancy enough to feel like showing off, not cheap enough to feel performative. Just a quiet place where 2 people could talk. Chelsea was already there when Amara arrived, sitting at a corner table wearing jeans and a simple sweater. No makeup, hair in a ponytail. She looked nothing like the girl from the video. She looked tired, real. You came, Chelsea said, standing awkwardly. I wasn't sure you would. I said I would. Amara slid into the seat across from her. Carlo was outside. She could see his silhouette through the window, always watching. They ordered, made small talk, the weather, the foundation, Chelsea's social work classes, safe topics, dancing around the elephant in the room. Finally, Chelsea set down her fork. I saw your TED Talk last week. It was incredible. Thank you. You said something that stuck with me. You said, I don't have to forgive someone to recognize their humanity. Were you talking about me? Amara met her eyes. Yes. Chelsea nodded slowly. That's fair. That's more than fair. She took a shaky breath. I don't expect forgiveness, Amara. I just want you to know that I'm not the same person I was 6 months ago. I can see that. Can you? Chelsea's voice cracked. Because I look in the mirror and sometimes I still see her, the girl who thought it was funny to humiliate someone, who saw you as a prop in my life instead of a person with your own life. Tears welled in her eyes. I hate her. I hate who I was so much it physically hurts. Amara watched her cry. Felt nothing, then felt something. Pity, maybe. Or recognition that pain was pain, even when it was self-inflicted. The month I made you work, Amara said quietly. That wasn't just punishment. I wanted you to understand. Did you? Yes. God, yes. Chelsea wiped her eyes roughly. Every minute of every day, I understood. My hands still have scars from the grease burns. I see them every morning, and I think, Amara lived this for 6 months with us, years with other families, and I made it worse. Why did you do it? Amara had never asked directly. The video, the trash, why? Chelsea was quiet for a long moment. Honestly, because I could. Because I'd been raised to see people like you as less. Not consciously. My parents never sat me down and said, treat your workers badly. But they showed me. Every day. The way they talked about the help. The way they never learned names. The casual cruelty disguised as jokes. She looked up, meeting Amara's eyes. I was taught that my comfort mattered more than someone else's dignity, and I never questioned it until you made me live on the other side. And now? Now I'm trying to unlearn 22 years of programming. It's hard. I catch myself sometimes about to say something awful, and I have to stop and think, no, that's the old Chelsea. Be better. She paused. I'm in therapy 3 times a week. I'm working with the foundation, just volunteer work. Nothing that puts me near you if you don't want that. I'm trying to be someone my future self won't hate. Amara absorbed this. The foundation work, Rosa says you're good at it, that the clients trust you. Rosa is generous, but I'm trying. I know I can never undo what I did, Amara. I can't give you back your dignity. You took that back yourself. But maybe I can make sure it doesn't happen to someone else. The food came. They ate in silence for a while. It wasn't comfortable, but it wasn't hostile either. Just 2 people existing in the complicated space between harm and healing. My father wanted to destroy you, Amara said suddenly. Your whole family. He had plans, detailed plans. It would have been so easy for him. Chelsea paled. Why didn't he? Because I asked him not to. Because I told him that turning you into a victim wouldn't make me less of one. That real change required something harder than revenge. Amara set down her fork. But Chelsea, you need to understand something. My father's trying to be better for me. But he's not a good man. He's done terrible things. Things that would make what you did to me look like nothing. I know who he is. Do you? Because I'm learning every day, and it's complicated. Loving someone who's capable of such darkness, accepting protection from hands that have hurt others. Amara's voice was tight. I asked him to change. He's trying. But some stains don't wash out. Chelsea leaned forward. Is that why you agreed to have dinner with me? Because you understand loving someone who's done bad things? Amara considered this. Maybe. Or maybe because my mother survived an explosion, protected me with her dying strength, and gave me a chance at life. And I think she'd want me to give second chances when they're earned. She paused. You're earning yours, Chelsea. Slowly. But you are. Does that mean you forgive me? No. Amara's voice was firm. No, I don't forgive you. Maybe I never will. But I see you trying, and that's something. They finished dinner, walked out together into the cool New York evening. Carlo appeared instantly at Amara's side. Thank you for coming, Chelsea said. And Amara, your mother would be proud of you, not just for the foundation, for being strong enough to let people try to be better. Amara nodded. Good night, Chelsea. She walked away, Carlo beside her, and didn't look back. That night, Amara couldn't sleep. She sat in the apartment Marco had bought her, a safe, beautiful space in Murray Hill, and stared at her mother's photo. Was I right, Mama? She whispered in Tagalog, giving her a chance, or am I being weak? The photo didn't answer, but Amara thought about strength. Real strength, the kind that survives explosions and orphanages and humiliation, the kind that builds foundations instead of seeking revenge, the kind that says, I will not let what you did to me define who I become. Her phone rang. Marco. Papa, it's midnight. I know. I just wanted to hear your voice. He sounded tired. How was dinner? Complicated. Like everything else. Like everything else, Amara agreed. She heard something in the background. Voices. Papa, where are you? Handling business. What kind of business? Silence. Papa. The kind that keeps you safe, Mia Figlia. The kind that makes sure no one ever dumps trash on my daughter again. His voice hardened. The kind that reminds people why they should fear the name DeLuca. Amara's stomach dropped. What did you do? What I had to do. Papa, you promised. I promised to try. I am trying. But Amara, you need to understand. The world you're building, the safe, just world where people are kind to each other. I'm building that foundation too, just with different tools. Violence isn't a tool, it's what keeps you alive, Marco interrupted. It's what stopped the Whitmore parents from trying to sue you for defamation. It's what convinced 15 different employers to sign the foundation's ethics pledge. It's what makes sure that when you walk into a room, people listen. Amara felt tears burning. I don't want that kind of protection. I know, but you have it anyway. Because I love you. Because you're all I have left of Isabella. Because I will not lose you again. His voice broke. I'm doing my best, Tesoro, but my best includes making sure nobody ever hurts you. Even if it means you hurt others? Yes, especially then. Amara closed her eyes. This was her life now, caught between two worlds, the one she was building, full of light and hope and second chances, and the one her father lived in, full of shadows and debts and violence that protected her, whether she wanted it to or not. I love you, Papa, she said finally, but I don't love what you do. I know. Your mother said the same thing once. A long pause. She loved me anyway, can you? Amara looked at her mother's photo, at the woman who'd loved a man capable of darkness, who'd died protecting their child, who'd never given up hope even when everything seemed lost. Yes, Amara whispered, I can love you anyway. But Papa, keep trying to be better, for me, for Mama's memory. Keep trying. Every day, Mia Figlia, every day. After they hung up, Amara sat in the darkness, holding the weight of complicated love, of knowing someone's worst parts and choosing to see their best, of understanding that redemption wasn't a destination, it was a journey. And some journeys took a lifetime. She was her mother's daughter. That meant compassion, but she was also her father's daughter. That meant understanding that sometimes the world needed more than kindness to change. The question was, which daughter would she become? Amara stared out at the New York skyline and realized the answer was both. She could hold both truths. She could build a foundation on mercy while standing on a foundation of power. She could be complicated, like her parents, like Chelsea, like everyone trying to be better than their worst moment, and maybe that was enough. 2 years later. The Isabella Rivera Foundation had grown beyond anything Amara had imagined. 3 locations now, New York, Los Angeles, and Manila. Over 50,000 domestic workers assisted. Legislation passed in 18 states, a documentary on Netflix, a book deal, a movement. Amara stood backstage at the TED conference in Vancouver, her nursing degree finally complete, her life unrecognizable from the girl who'd been on her knees in that apartment covered in trash. 5 minutes, Ms. DeLuca, The stage manager called. Amara checked her reflection. Short hair. She'd kept it short by choice now, a reminder that she controlled her own image. A simple blue dress, her mother's necklace, the one Marco had saved for 23 years, around her neck. Her phone buzzed, a group text to the family chat Marco had created. Papa, watching the live stream. You'll be magnificent, Miguel. So proud of you, Ate, we all are. Sophia, you're my hero. Amara smiled. Her siblings had moved to New York last year. Marco had paid for their education, set them up in an apartment near hers. The family she'd thought she'd lost had been rebuilt, piece by piece. Another text came through. Chelsea. Watching with my social work cohort. You've got this. Amara had seen Chelsea regularly over the past 2 years. Not friends exactly, but something. Witnesses to each other's transformation. Chelsea had graduated with her social work degree, now worked full-time at a workers' rights organization. Madison had become a documentary filmmaker, her latest project exposing labor trafficking. The Whitmore parents had divorced, both serving community service for various financial crimes Marco's team had discovered. They had lost everything. But Richard had gotten a job at a non-profit. Patricia volunteered at a women's shelter, small steps toward humanity. 2 minutes. Amara walked to the wings, could hear the host introducing her. From invisible to invaluable, the woman who turned personal tragedy into a global movement. Please welcome Amara Rivera de Luca. Applause thundered as Amara walked onto the stage. 3,000 people in the audience, millions streaming online, and for just a moment, she was that girl again, small, scared, invisible. Then she remembered. She chose to be seen now. This was her story to tell. 2 years ago, Amara began, her voice clear and strong. Someone dumped garbage on me and filmed it for entertainment. That video has now been viewed over 20 million times. But tonight, I want to tell you about a different video, one that's only been viewed by about 50 people, one that changed my life even more. She clicked the remote. A video played, grainy footage from a Manila hospital in 2002. A woman, barely conscious, clutching a baby, whispering something to a nurse, the nurse nodding, taking the baby, pinning a photo to the blanket. This is my mother, Isabella Rivera de Luca. This is the moment she saved my life. Seconds after this video was taken, she died. And I grew up never knowing her name, never knowing I had a father, never knowing I mattered to anyone. The audience was silent. We talk about viral videos, about going viral, but we forget that every video, every moment captured and shared is about real people, real lives, real consequences. Amara paused. That garbage video, it destroyed me, but it also revealed me. It brought my father into my life. It started a movement. It changed everything. She told the story, all of it, the orphanage, the years of work, the humiliation, the reunion, the foundation, the complicated redemption of the people who'd hurt her. I stood here today because someone filmed my worst moment, but I'm still standing because I chose what came next. Not revenge, not bitterness, purpose. The screen behind her filled with faces. Domestic workers, nannies, cleaners, caregivers, drivers, all the invisible people who kept the world running. 67 million domestic workers worldwide, most of them women, most of them immigrants or people of color, most of them invisible until something goes wrong. Amara's voice strengthened. But they're not invisible to me. They're not invisible to this foundation, and after today, they won't be invisible to you. She shared statistics, success stories, legislative victories, the foundation's expansion plans. But here's what I really want you to understand. Dignity isn't something you give people. It's something you recognize they already have. My mother had dignity when she died protecting me. I had dignity when I was covered in trash. Every worker who's ever been dismissed or degraded or dehumanized has dignity. Amara's eyes swept the audience. Your job is to see it, to honor it, to protect it. The applause started softly, then built into a roar. Standing ovation. 3,000 people on their feet. Amara stood in the light, thinking about her mother, about Marco watching from New York, about Chelsea and Madison trying to be better, about every person who'd ever made her feel invisible and everyone who'd helped her become seen. My name is Amara Rivera de Luca, she finished. I am the daughter of Isabella and Marco. I'm a nurse. I'm an advocate. I'm a survivor. And I'm visible because I chose to be. Thank you. After the talk, Amara found a quiet corner backstage. Her phone was exploding with messages, news outlets wanting interviews, donors offering money, workers sharing their stories. But the message she answered first was from Marco. Your mother is smiling from heaven, Tesoro, and your papa is crying in his office. You are everything good that came from something terrible. Ti amo. Amara wiped her eyes, typed back, Ti amo, papa. Thank you for finding me. A knock on her door. Carlo's voice. Ms. DeLuca, someone's here to see you. Amara opened the door. Chelsea stood there, tears streaming down her face. That was incredible, Chelsea said. The way you talked about everything. About second chances and dignity and… She trailed off. Amara, I know I say this every time I see you, but I'm sorry. I will spend the rest of my life being sorry and trying to do better. Amara studied her. 2 years of watching Chelsea volunteer every weekend, seeing her work with trafficking survivors, reading her thesis on systemic discrimination against domestic workers, witnessing actual genuine change. Chelsea, sit down. They sat in the small backstage room, 2 women who'd started as abuser and victim, now something more complicated, something unfinished but evolving. I want to tell you something, Amara said. Something I've never told anyone except my therapist and my father. Chelsea waited. For a long time after that day, I had nightmares, not about the trash, about the laughter, about being so completely dehumanized that people could film me suffering and think it was entertainment. Amara's voice was steady but soft. And I hated you. I hated you so much I couldn't breathe around it. Chelsea's face crumpled. But then I watched you change. Really change. Not performative redemption, actual painful growth. And I realized something. Amara leaned forward. Hating you was giving you power over me. Refusing to see your growth was keeping us both stuck in that moment. Are you saying… I'm saying that I forgive you, Chelsea. Not because you earned it. Not because enough time has passed, but because holding on to that hate was hurting me more than it was hurting you. Amara took a shaky breath. I forgive you. And I release both of us from that moment. Chelsea broke down completely. Great shaking sobs. Amara didn't move to comfort her, just let her feel it. Let her receive the gift she'd spent 2 years working toward. Finally, Chelsea looked up. Thank you. God, thank you. I don't deserve this. No, Amara agreed. You don't. That's what makes it forgiveness. They sat together for a long moment. Not friends. Maybe never friends. But 2 people who'd been trapped in a terrible moment and had both found ways to climb out of it. What you do with this forgiveness is up to you, Amara said finally. You can see it as permission to stop trying, or you can see it as fuel to try harder. Your choice. I'll try harder, Chelsea said immediately. I promise. Good. Amara stood. Now I have about 50 interviews to do. The work continues. Chelsea stood too. The work continues, she echoed. Then, hesitantly, Amara? Can I hug you? Amara considered, nodded. The hug was brief, awkward, but it was real. 2 years ago, the thought of Chelsea touching her would have made Amara's skin crawl. Now it just felt like closure. Goodbye, Chelsea. Goodbye, Amara, and thank you for everything. That night, Amara returned to New York and went straight to her father's estate upstate. Marco was waiting in his study, the same room where he'd first watched the video that had changed everything. Mia figlia. He embraced her tightly. You were perfect today. Papa, we need to talk. Something in her tone made him stiffen. What's wrong? Nothing's wrong, but I need to know. The legitimate businesses you've been building. The transition away from crime. Where are you really at with that? Marco sighed, moved to the window. 70% legitimate now. The rest? It's complicated. There are obligations, debts, people who depend on… Papa, I need more than 70%. He turned. Amara, I forgave Chelsea today, really forgave her. Do you know how hard that was? Amara's eyes filled with tears. But I did it. Because I decided I wanted to be someone who believes in redemption, someone who thinks people can change. She stepped closer. Now I need you to change, really change, all the way, no more excuses. Marco's face twisted with emotion. For you, I'm trying. Try harder. Amara's voice broke. Papa, I love you, but I can't build a foundation about dignity and justice while my father is still hurting people. I can't be a voice for the vulnerable while accepting protection built on violence. I just can't. You're asking me to give up everything that kept me alive for 23 years. No. I'm asking you to trust that love is stronger than fear, that you don't need violence to protect me anymore, that we can build something better together. Amara took his scarred hand. Mama loved you, even knowing what you were. She saw something good in you. Let me see it too. Please. Marco DeLuca, who hadn't cried in public in decades, who'd built an empire on intimidation and force, who'd survived by being harder than everyone else, broke. I don't know if I can, he whispered. I don't know how to be anyone else. Then learn, the same way Chelsea learned, the same way I learned, one day at a time. Amara hugged him. I'll help you. But you have to choose it, Papa. You have to choose us over the empire. Marco held his daughter, the miracle he'd thought he'd lost, the person who'd given his life meaning again. And he made a choice. Okay, he said. Okay, for you. For Isabella's memory, I'll find a way. Promise me. I promise. 5 years. 5 years and I'll be completely legitimate. No more violence, no more crime. Just business and family. 5 years, Amara agreed, and I'll be there every step of the way. They stood together in the study, father and daughter, both trying to be better than they'd been, both carrying complicated histories, both choosing hope over habit. Outside, the New York night sparkled with possibility, and Amara Rivera DeLuca, who'd been invisible for so long, who'd been humiliated and broken and rebuilt, thought about the future. About the foundation growing, about 50,000 workers helped and 50,000 more waiting, about forgiveness given and redemption earned, about her mother's legacy living on through every life they touched. She thought about the video that had started everything, still out there, still viewed thousands of times a day, but now with comments that said, "This led to the Isabella Rivera Foundation. This woman changed the world. From trash to transformation." Her worst moment had become the catalyst for her greatest purpose. And somewhere, Amara believed, her mother was smiling. The end. They thought dumping trash on a Filipino maid would make them famous. They were right, but not the way they expected. Because the maid was Amara Rivera DeLuca, daughter of Marco DeLuca. And the world doesn't forget when you humiliate someone who matters. The question is, shouldn't everyone matter?